Okay. So you said the HBFI is what needs to be publicised more and more engagement in. I'd be happy to look at that with people that approach me for housing that they went to local authorities and they said they're not interested then that in the area. I've been interested in getting the contact details for you for that. So if you could email me afterwards with details where I can actually engage, so I can help people that have a way of bringing housing, and it might be a way of them getting them housing into the market for social housing within the area. I'd be delighted to help in that way myself, which will also help cash flow. In the sequence of, you mentioned the Skeeton area around the Chief, 4 existing units. 33 years they're waiting for an upgrade on the storage system in the Skeeton. It's supposed to be in 2026 now, I think, is the next time they've done. So actually what's there at the moment is broken. And I compliment you for doing up the buildings that you are doing in the Skeeton, but you are actually connecting it back to an existing broken system, which is an environmental problem in itself, and we have that in all other areas as well. Bringing the older buildings back into production, and would say a lot of the buildings, you go to Kilmallock at the moment, 14th century buildings listed. We have one conservation officer in Limerick. He's only got so much time and to go out and visit these buildings. So for people to try and bring buildings back in that likes of Kilmallock back into production again is a costly experience. I actually done the credit union in Kilmallock myself recently. It took us 2 years to complete it with conservation to bring it back into production. And I'd love to see the likes of Kilmallock rebuilt and back into production. And there's an awful lot of buildings within there that are uneconomical to rebuild, but I'd love to keep the street structure and modernise the back of them. But once they're not an iconic building, I'd like them be brought in a more sensible way, so they will work for the people and get people back into the footfalls into our towns and villages again in the likes of Limerick. So this HBFI I'd like to hear more about, and how it can help people from a point of view of financially if they want to. So could you explain to me what the process is of HBFI if we had people?
I'm not a salesperson for HBFI. HBFI is a government initiative. It's a funding stream from the government to fund directly to small builders, to contractors, to developers to produce more housing. So but I don't agree with them. I don't arrange fees or
oh, yeah, I understand
anything
that, yeah.
with them. My funding comes from the Housing Finance Agency, and I'm more than happy to talk to that.
Yes.
But the HBFI, you would need to speak directly with them with regard to their system. But it's a
you can provide the details.
We can send the details.
Housing Building Finance Ireland, and we might it might be one of our work suggestions that we've invited in. Anything that we can add to the housing, finance of housing, I think would be of benefit to all.
Which would actually help us, because, as I say, we have an awful lot of people that are coming to us at the moment. For the Minister, Darragh O'Brien, we spoke in the Dáil about this last week. He said there was never as many applications that had gone through planning in the last 12 months. He's actually right, but there isn't going to be a quarter of them built. And that is the worry that I have, that there is so many plannings gone through, because a lot of the surge in planning was the changing in the planning laws. Everybody was looking for planning, no matter where you were, they were trying to get it back in. Rising your buildings, it was a discussion we actually had on site this morning. I actually had it with a QS this morning. Rising of buildings on a third story, you'd imagine I have the first story, the second story, it's going to be a lot cheaper to put on the third story. The only basic cost that you're actually saving is the foundation. Everything else has to meet fire regulations, so you're going concrete floors, depends what you're going on. The regulation, the higher you go, the more expensive it gets. So the lower you are, the cheaper build you have. So once you pass second story, you're into a different world. And again, is the more we can do to help people to finance that side of it. But we have an awful lot of buildings that could be built if the proper financial package was put in place, if the right agencies were put in place, if the local authority said, right, we don't want it, but this agency and this agency, this agency are looking for it, and they'll feed back into housing people. That's what I want. So whatever you can do to give me the information, I can get back out into people and encourage them.
Can I come in? Thank you, Chair. Deputy, I think the Irish Council for Social Housing, as I said, we have 50,000 units. Every year we do a community award scheme where we look at best practice and what our members are doing in best practice, and that's available on our website. It's worth 5 minutes on that website, because some of the awards that have been won over the last couple of years have been for the very buildings you're talking about, bringing back old convents, bringing back old monasteries. The trust, the Peter McVerry Trust itself, we brought back an old Dominican priory in Athy, for example. There was a kind of a community hall there, a chapel, and we brought that right back. I think under the social end, you have to go to tender, and within the tender scheme, you have to have a conservation architect, a grade 2 conservation architect. So the architect we used, for example, was the one who rebuilt Longford Cathedral when it was destroyed, and I think that was the biggest capital project going on during the recession at one stage. Millions of euro went into that. So I think on the social end, we have to have those competencies within our team, for the very reasons why you said counties like your own only have one. And so what they want to do in the application, see that you've covered all of that, yes. So they're only reviewing it rather than managing it. And so like old convents, old churches, lots of those buildings are being brought back now. Sophia Housing, one of our members, has been really good on that. We've been doing a lot of work on that. I think Tiglin did a bit of that in Wicklow. Clúid are doing a bit. There's going to be a load of members on the phone tonight saying you never mentioned me, but if you go on our website, you will see that. But I think that's what we need to do, because even this week alone, I spoke to 2 religious orders about the possibility of the reuse of their old building, and that will require us paying attention to the environment and the conservations. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Doyle.